Hey everyone, so I'm finally back with a sit down video. I feel like I haven't done one of these in ages, and obviously that's because I've been moving to a new country, loads of stuff has been happening, holidays and all that, but I'm finally here to give you guys another interesting video about language learning. And this one's going to be really great because it's my official Lingoda review, and I know a lot of you, well, the most views that I have on my channel is on that Lingoda video, although I am going to make a following up video going in depth into how to win pretty much, and I'll share some of my stories where I came really close to failing. One of them includes me having to run into a staff room in Starbucks to take a lesson. Yes, I'm not even kidding. But this one today is just going to be a review and my thoughts on pretty much everything from teachers to the platform itself to the content as well. I just thought it would be really good to share this with you guys. And I'm sorry as well because I really wanted to get this video out before the latest sprint started, but I just couldn't get it out with everything happening. And also, if you like my content, I always feel weird saying this, but give my video a like and subscribe because we've reached 200, which is crazy. Yeah, that's a lot of people. The first thing that I want to talk about is the teachers on Lingoda. Obviously, the teachers themselves play a really important role, and I just wanted to, make this its own category because I feel like it's really important. So in Lingoda, probably 80% of the time, I loved the teacher and everything was all good, all Gucci. It was a great lesson and they really helped the flow of the class. But the 20% of the time that the teacher wasn't that great, there was about half of that where they were like really bad. And what I mean by this is like they're not actually a bad teacher. It's more like they don't know how to keep the flow of the class going really well. For example, like they'll see a student struggling and not really help them out. But yeah, I can't really explain it, but there were definitely a few teachers where the class was just awkward. The flow was not there. I'll give you another example of what I'm talking about. If there's like a question or something on the slide, usually the teachers will be like asking you to take turns to answer the question, which is really good because it like pushes you to do stuff. You know, you need guidance throughout these classes, right? Like usually if it's a bad teacher, they'll just get to a question and then just ask anyone to answer it. Like anyone just jump in and answer the question. And then everyone's just kind of like, those of you who have done Lingoda before, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think the good qualities of a teacher includes like being direct, noticing when students are struggling or if there's any awkwardness in the class, how to just bring across the content in a helpful manner. And then I've had another instance where like one student made one pronunciational mistake and the teacher went on like a 5-minute tangent. It's hard because every teacher has their own teaching style, obviously, and I guess you just got to figure out what fits with you. I remember one time when one teacher was like really bad and he kept turning his camera off as well, which is not normal. Usually they keep their camera on the whole time. This guy kept turning his camera off and back on again, and the whole class was just a bit like awkward and like no direction at all. And then at the end of the class, he asked everyone to give him a 5-star rating because that would give him more classes or something. So I'm not sure how Lingoda works, but I'm assuming that if you have a high rating, then they'll allow you to do more classes. I'm not really sure, that's what it sounded like. My advice for avoiding this is to note down which types of teachers you like and don't like, and then just try to find them in the future. And also one thing that I've noticed, and if you guys have done Lingoda before, let me know if you feel the same way, but I feel like the classes are a little bit impersonal in the way that you can't contact the teacher outside of that 1-hour block. It just feels like there's something missing and I don't really know how to explain it. If you've done the sprint or if you're doing the sprint, you spend 1 hour a day every single day with these people, and yeah, it's just weird for it to be like, okay, see ya. Never see you again. Thanks for helping me so much. I wish there was a way to at least, maybe at the end of the sprint, you could send the teachers like a thank you message. Also, coming back to the thing that I was talking about earlier with the awkwardness, I just wanted to mention, this one's for the students, not for the teachers, how about that? Is that it's really good if you guys doing Lingoda actually have your cameras on. And I know like you don't have to have your cameras on all the time or anything like that, but like, I can only imagine from the teacher's perspective when they get into a class and it's like them with their camera on and then just 5 students without their camera on. I always feel kind of bad for the teachers because it must be really difficult to teach classes seeing no faces basically, and I feel like it would kind of suck. And I also feel like that it's way harder for the teachers to gauge if students are struggling or how the class is as a vibe. It forces you to be a bit more switched on as well, because you're not going to be eating dinner or something at the same time if your camera's on. And another thing that I wanted to point out with the teachers is when I very first started the sprint, right, I thought that the teachers were really strict or something, because when you read the Lingoda rules, it says, oh, if you don't engage in the class, or if you're a little bit late or something, the teachers will mark you as not attended. You won't win the sprint, pretty much. So I came into the sprint thinking all of the teachers were probably really strict, and they had to mark you as unattended once you're not there for like 3 minutes. What I later realized is the teachers are actually super nice, and they're not out to make you fail, which is what I originally thought it was going to be like. And in fact, one of the teachers that I had, she was like sharing her screen when we all popped into the class, and I saw the internal site for the teachers for Lingoda, and one of the guys that came in was 12 or 13 minutes late, and I saw that she still marked him as attended. So I wouldn't advise being like late to any classes, just in case, but it made me realize that, okay, they do want you to like succeed, and they will mark you as attended even if you're a little bit late. And my overall thought on the teachers is majority of them are super great. If there's a teacher that you think is really not that great, give them a low score, because what it sounds like to me, if they do have low scores, they won't be given more classes to take. So now I want to talk about the program and the actual content within Lingoda. Now this might be a little bit subjective, because some people might like a certain way of learning one way and then I might like it another, but how I kind of value the content is how much I'm learning, how valuable it actually is to being able to become fluent, because that's my goal, and kind of is it consistent, slowly moving up level kind of thing, if you know what I'm talking about. Now within Lingoda, they have several different types of classes that you can take, from like reading, vocab, grammar, skills, and some other ones as well. And I'm just going to say my two least favorite were vocab and reading. And the reason I didn't like vocab classes is because it's literally just like giving you vocab, which is really great. But then I'm thinking you could just download the content for that class and memorize it yourself. You don't really need someone to go through with you and be like, okay, this is what horse is in French. And the reason that I didn't like reading, so in the reading classes, you would have to read a bunch of text, and then you would have to like answer a bunch of questions on the text. When you're reading the text, you are 100% focusing on the pronunciation. Like you're thinking, okay, liaison, and usually it's new words as well, so you're try to pronounce it right. And then I always forget that I actually have to remember what this is saying, like translate it and remember for the future questions. But every single time, I would always just try really hard to pronounce it, and then they'll just scroll to the next screen, and I'll be like, wait, I don't know, maybe I'm just like, I wasn't focusing hard enough. And also the classes that I think are the most valuable are 100% grammar and skills classes. I don't want you guys to just only be doing that. Definitely try a bunch of classes and see which you like best. But for me, the like time versus value is 100% worth it when it comes to grammar, especially because anything that you're confused about with the grammar, you can ask the teacher about it. You're not having to like research it and you're not quite sure. As well as in the grammar classes, a lot of the time they would teach you like really important grammar, and then they would have a whole bunch of exercises. As great as it is to have like reading classes and vocab classes, grammar is something that I think needs to be taught by a professor. It's not something that you can just memorize in a flashcard app. And the skills classes are how to ask questions or something like that. So that as well is really valuable. One thing that I do really like about the program is you're not forced to do a particular program. You're allowed to choose your classes. You can change levels if you want. You don't have to do stuff in order if you don't want to. It was really great to not have to be forced to do lessons I didn't want to. Because I know when I've done like a program in the past, you can't just skip over content that you already know. For example, like if you already knew how to count from 1 to 10 in French, you would still have to do that class because it's a part of the program. But in Lingoda, you can just skip it if you already know it or if you don't think it's that applicable to you. One thing that I don't like, and I know Lingoda is like a subscription-based platform and all of that, but still I don't like being kicked off the program once you finish the sprint. I like how on other language learning applications like iTalki or something, you can just go on and like instantly book a class. but on Lingoda you have to buy a membership or like an ongoing subscription. But just warning you, they do kick you off pretty quick after, so if you wanted to quickly download any content that you wanted to cover, then definitely do that. Another thing that I found really great with the content is they have homework and like the answers. Also they have a test on the class after, and they also have the transcript that you can download. So that's really useful that you're able to actually revise properly. Although I have heard from higher levels, once you get to those C levels, you'd actually need someone to properly mark it. But you could always find someone in your target language to do your homework, marking it, and then vice versa. I've seen someone post about that on one of the Lingoda Facebook pages. Also, that's another thing. If you can, sign up for a Lingoda Facebook page. It's really interesting and helpful to see what other people are doing and if anyone else has similar problems to what you have. Overall, I really like the content, and they managed to fit a lot into 1 hour. Next thing I want to talk about is the actual platform itself, like the website and I guess Zoom as well, because that's what they use for the actual video calls. Overall, I didn't have that many connection issues, but there was 1 or 2 times where the time that was on Zoom wasn't the same time as my class on the website. Now, if this ever happens to you, make sure you screenshot it and just email them straight away so that they don't try to cancel you or anything. Luckily for me, the time that was on the website was an hour before the class was scheduled on Zoom. I was in a Facebook group at the time, and there was a couple people that mentioned that it happened to them, but like the other way around. So their Lingoda class said like 5 p.m, but the Zoom time was 4 p.m, so they missed the class. Obviously this isn't your fault, so I doubt they're gonna, not let you win the sprint because of this. I wanted to mention also, when it comes to looking for classes, they need more filters. 100% they need more filters when searching for classes. For example, I only wanted to search by classes that are grammar and skill, and I had to scroll on and on to be able to find it, and it was just really annoying. Another thing when it comes to looking for classes, if you do book pretty far in ahead, maybe 2-3 weeks plus, I've noticed that they tend to have classes up even that don't have teachers attached to them yet, usually like in 1 hour increments. And if you go further enough in the future and you see those without teachers being attached, if they don't have classes that you like, you can refresh the page and just scroll back down and it'll be different. So don't think that you have to pick out of those. Also, this is kind of random, but I wanted to give out a shout out to the Lingoda support team. And every time I've messaged them, they've been super helpful. Also, I remember when I was first going to take the sprint, I literally messaged support and I was like, can you really get 100% money back? And they just responded to me, hello Bonnie, yes, that's what it says, yes. So they must get so many just random ass messages. Okay, now I want to talk about the sprint promotion itself and what I think about it as a concept. So at first I was super skeptical because it just sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? If you manage to attend every single class, you get a 100% refund. If you are thinking of signing up for it, definitely do your research and watch my follow-up video about how to actually win the sprint, because obviously they must have enough people failing to be able to make a profit, a pretty large profit, because they have to pay all the teachers and all of that kind of stuff. So they need enough people to fail for it to be, I guess, successful on their end. So when you're thinking about, oh yeah, I'll 100% do it and get my refund and stuff like that, how you will lose the sprint is by forgetting about a class, not because you're not motivated and you're not ready to do it. So the only way to prevent yourself from losing is by planning. And like I said at the start, I was super organized, and I still managed to almost fail probably 4 times. Like, I got really lucky, for real, guys. And for me personally, whether I would have won or lost or whatever, I think the fact that I had that pressure to go to the class every single day really forced me to stay on top of my French. There is 100% no way that I would have done 90 hours in 90 days if it wasn't for that pressure to have to go to the class. When I very first started doing my research about doing the Lingoda sprint, I looked for reviews online, and all of the negative reviews were from people that lost because they didn't read the terms and conditions or they woke up too late. Read the terms and conditions thoroughly or you will fail 100%. And most of all, enjoy it. You're actually making an active decision to take your language learning seriously. Give yourself a pat on the back and enjoy the process. One thing that you should do that I did is I did the placement test at the very start, and then I did it at the very end, and I went up a level in the placement test. Okay, my one downside to how the sprint itself functions is the fact that, okay, you have to use one of 3 currencies to pay for the Lingoda sprint, right? And you pay in 3 installments or 4 installments. Because they didn't have my currency, I had to use euros, right? So at the very start of the sprint, I did the calculation and I figured that with all of the payments in euros, it would be about $1,100 Australian, and that was the conversion rate. And then 3 months later, when I did the conversion rate again, the price that it is now is 1,400. So with the conversion rates over the 3 months, it actually went up. And now for my overall thoughts, yes, I think the Lingoda super sprint or sprint or whatever is worth it. And would I do it again? Yes, I would. In fact, I do want to do it again. The only reason I'm not doing the current sprint now, because you have to have not had a class with Lingoda 30 days prior to when you start the sprint to be able to get the refund. So with me changing countries as well, I just figured I'd skip this sprint and I'll do the next one. So if you guys are doing the next sprint, which probably starts in March maybe, I'm not quite sure, they haven't released any info about it yet. Maybe I'll see you guys in there. And lastly, I'll put my referral link in the description. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. Just if you use my link, I get 5 group class credits and you get 50 euros off, so helping each other out. And please comment any questions if you have any. I would be more than happy to help you guys. I've really enjoyed seeing what you guys think and people who are going to try the Lingoda sprint or people who've already tried it, and just responding to questions about it. And remember to like this video and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for my next part of the video, which is going to be talking about everything you need to know if you want to win the sprint. And I'm going to talk about every teeny little detail, as well as a few tricks to make sure that you're on top of things and not do some of the stuff that I did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.